Have you ever wondered what it truly costs to hide your emotions? To be the one who's always good, strong, independent. From a young age, women are taught that to be loved, they must adjust, sacrifice, and quiet the most tender, vulnerable parts within. But the price of that silence is heavy. Somewhere along the way, they lose touch with the innocent, intuitive, vibrant little girl they once were. The root of their true feminine energy. None of this is your fault. It's what happens when the child inside is left unhealed. As long as that little girl remains buried in the unconscious, your natural feminine essence stays trapped. So how do you bring her back to life? How do you reconnect with your intuition, your softness, your quiet strength? Instead of simply enduring life on survival mode, to be free, you have to return. Return to the place it all began. To the moment that little girl was left behind in the dark. Today, I want to take you on a journey to find her, to listen to her, and to begin healing what's been unseen for so long. Stay with me till the end. This might not just be another piece of content. It might be the message you've been waiting to hear. When a grown woman feels constantly drained in her relationships, feels lonely even when surrounded by people, or reacts too strongly to small things, she often blames herself. She thinks, maybe I'm too emotional. Maybe I'm just weak. But these reactions aren't flaws. They're echoes from the past. The voice of the little girl inside you still crying out, even when no one seems to hear her. Inside every person lives an inner world, a landscape made of memories, beliefs, emotions, and forgotten fragments of who we used to be. And one of the most powerful pieces of that world is the inner child, the part of you that once felt hurt, unseen, or unworthy. That little girl doesn't disappear. She retreats. She hides deep inside where she still feels unloved, inadequate, and unsafe. And from that hidden place, she quietly influences how you think, how you love, and how you react as an adult. Have you ever pretended you were fine when your partner ignored your message? Tried to stay composed when someone criticized you? Felt a deep sting of rejection over something small, like being left out of a conversation or overlooked at work? That's not your adult self reacting. That's the little girl who once felt invisible, reliving her pain again and again. Because she was never heard back then, every similar moment reopens that same wound. We all carry parts of ourselves we don't want to see. Emotions we were taught to hide, sides we were told were too much. For many women, that hidden part is the inner little girl. She carries the fear of being left behind, the need to please to be accepted, and the belief that love must be earned. These beliefs form early. When a child's tears are ignored, when she's scolded for expressing emotions or compared to others, a child doesn't yet know that the problem isn't her. So she decides, something must be wrong with me. I'm not good enough to be loved. That belief becomes her map for life. Please others to be loved. Be yourself and risk being rejected. It's the quiet contract many women unknowingly sign as little girls. And it shapes their entire emotional world. The pain doesn't vanish. It becomes the script that runs their lives. They find themselves falling for emotionally distant partners who mirror their unavailable father. They end up working for harsh bosses who make them feel never good enough, just like when they were compared as children. This isn't coincidence. It's the mind's way of trying to replay the old wound, hoping this time the story will end differently. But until you recognize it, you just relive the same pain in new forms. The danger is when you start believing this is fate. You think you're unlucky in love. You think life is just harder for you. But this isn't destiny. It's the past, still unhealed, still whispering through the present. When we don't face what's buried within us, it controls us from the shadows. Once we bring it into the light, everything changes. Awareness breaks the pattern. The moment you realize, oh, I react this way because I was once silenced, or I try this hard because I once believed I wasn't enough. Something shifts. The unconscious stops steering your life, and you begin to take back the wheel. Think about this, the ego, the image you show the world, often forms as armor. When the inner child is deeply hurt, The adult self learns to survive by becoming capable, successful, and independent. You build strength like walls. You rely on no one. You achieve. But deep inside, you're tired. You're weary from carrying the weight of having to be okay all the time. Imagine a woman in her mid-30s, accomplished, respected, financially secure, yet in love, she's terrified. When she feels loved, she panics, afraid it will disappear. When she feels abandoned, it feels like the world is falling apart. She can lead a team, pitch to clients, make tough decisions, but she can't bring herself to say, I'm hurting. Because deep down, she's not loving as an adult woman. She's still that little girl, searching for the tenderness she never received. Can you see a part of yourself in her? If so, you're not alone. Your story might be someone else's mirror, someone else's quiet reminder that they too are not broken, just healing. The truth is, society never taught women to turn inward. It taught them to perform, to be good, strong, pleasing enough to be accepted. But the harder you try to be loved, the further you drift from your authentic self. Wholeness isn't about cutting off the parts of you that seem weak. It's about bringing them home. That's why that little girl inside you must be brought into the light. Not to take over, but to be seen, to be heard. That's when you begin to understand, I act this way because I once learned silence was safer. I strive so hard because I once believed I wasn't enough. Awareness softens what was hard. It begins to heal what was hidden. Healing isn't about erasing your past. It's about making peace with it. It's about looking at that little girl with compassion instead of criticism. Because if you don't, she'll keep waiting, sitting quietly inside, hoping someone will finally notice her. You can build the perfect life on the outside and still feel hollow within until you turn inward and listen. And when you do, when you finally meet that little girl with tenderness, you'll see something extraordinary. You'll realize that these wounds didn't just shape your relationships. They also separated you from something even more profound. Your connection to your natural feminine essence. No one is born disconnected from that energy. It's part of your soul, your intuition, your gentleness, your ability to receive love, to create, to flow. But over time, this energy gets buried under expectations and survival. Be strong, but not weak. Be beautiful, but not too much. Be successful, but don't outshine anyone. Under this constant pressure, your true feminine energy doesn't disappear. It just hides, waiting for you to come back for it. This essence, your feminine core, is not about gender or appearance. It's the part of you that moves with life instead of against it. It's the part that whispers, you can rest. You are safe. It's creativity, sensitivity, presence, and softness. Not as weakness, but as power. Yet most women were taught early on that emotions are messy, that being gentle makes you vulnerable, that wanting too much makes you difficult. So the inner child who once danced, dreamed, and cried freely learned to shrink. She traded joy for control. She wore strength like armor, never realizing that in doing so she buried her truest self. If you find it hard to relax, to express love without fear, or to feel feminine without guilt, you're not lost. You're just blocked. You've spent years trying to fit into a world that asked you to abandon who you are. And now it's time to return. To find that little girl, to listen to her, to let her lead you home. Think of a small stream flowing through a valley. At first, it moves freely, graceful, alive, winding around rocks and roots without resistance. It flows because that's what it was born to do. But one day, a boulder appears in its path. The stream doesn't understand why, but to survive, it changes direction. It learns to squeeze through cracks, to move quietly, to adapt. Over time, it forgets what it feels like to flow freely, believing that if it moves too strongly, more obstacles will appear. That's what happens to so many of us. We adapt, we adjust, we learn to survive instead of flow. But the beauty is, you can always return to your natural current. You can always remember who you were before the world told you who to be. And that journey back, that return, begins the moment you decide to listen. A woman's feminine energy is like a flowing stream. Sometimes it moves softly, sometimes it roars with power, but it's meant to move freely. Over time, many women have placed too many rules on themselves, too many beliefs that whisper, "I'm only worthy when I make others happy." And like a stream blocked by stones, the deepest part of her no longer touches the light. For her energy to flow again, a woman needs to feel safe in her own body, in her heart, and in her emotions. When the child inside her never knew unconditional love, she grows into a woman who doesn't feel safe opening her heart. Instead of receiving love, she becomes cautious protective, always trying to make sense of everything. She builds walls to stay safe, never realizing those same walls trap her truest self. Feminine energy doesn't come alive through effort. It awakens through surrender, through being present, through trusting the rhythm of life. But if a woman carries the fear of being hurt, she can't relax. She's always alert, always analyzing, always needing certainty before trusting anyone. And in that tension, she moves away from her feminine essence. Not because she's lost it, but because she once learned that being open, soft, and trusting wasn't safe. Think about the last time you wanted to express your feelings, but held back because you feared being misunderstood or rejected. That moment, when you silenced yourself, that's when your natural energy dimmed again. The sad part is, we often think this means we've grown stronger, wiser, more mature. But in truth, we're just repeating an old survival pattern from childhood when hiding our emotions felt like the only way to stay safe. Healing the feminine isn't about being moral or perfect. It's about coming home to yourself. It's about reconnecting with your soul through compassion and honesty. It's when you stop running from the parts of yourself you once judged. Your sensitivity, your tears, your need for connection. And you finally say, "I see you. You belong. You are part of me," and something changes. Slowly, quietly, something inside begins to move again. You start to feel instead of think your way through life. You start to create, to love, to trust. You no longer chase attention or recognition. You simply shine. And that light doesn't burn out. It comes from a place within you that never runs dry. That's when a deeper journey begins. Not one of becoming someone new, but of returning to who you've always been. This journey is about wholeness. It's not about becoming the best version of yourself, the one society expects you to be. It's not about perfection or performance. It's about becoming whole. The path to wholeness isn't about adding more. It's about removing what never belonged to you. The old beliefs, the roles you were told to play, the masks you wore to survive. It's about facing the parts of yourself you pushed away and realizing they too have value. The little girl who once felt small, unheard and unseen, she's still in there. The feminine essence that once hid behind layers of protection still waits for you to bring her into the light. Becoming whole isn't about some magical breakthrough. It's not a climb toward the heavens. It's a quiet descent into your roots. Facing your pain, making peace with your past, and accepting all parts of yourself, the strong and the fragile, the logical and the emotional, the dark and the bright. Only when you do that can you stop living a divided life. You stop trying to be someone else and finally live as yourself, authentic, grounded, and free. One woman once shared, "I wore a mask for 30 years. I did what everyone expected. I smiled even when I was breaking inside. But when I began to meet the little girl I'd hidden away, I realized I had never truly lived a single day. And after that, I could never go back. This journey isn't easy. There will be days when you feel lost, no longer belonging to the old world, but not yet knowing who you are in the new one. But that's a good sign. It means the old version of you is fading so the true one can be born. That confusion isn't failure, it's transformation. And then one day, something incredible happens. You stop needing others to accept you because you finally accepted yourself. You realize you weren't meant to become an ideal. You were meant to become real, whole, contradictory, human, and beautiful in your own way. That's what the journey is really about. It's not about running away from your pain. It's about walking back to yourself. Healing the inner child isn't another task to check off. It's a homecoming. It's an act of courage and self-love. Because every wound, every hidden emotion, every unmet need keeps echoing in your life until you finally stop and listen with compassion. You don't need to add more to yourself. You only need to remove what was built to protect you from being hurt. Not by reading more or learning more, but by turning inward to meet the little girl who once carried your full light before the world taught her to dim it. The first step is recognizing her. The little one inside you isn't just a memory. She's still alive. She still feels, she still hopes, she still wants to be seen. Find a childhood photo of yourself, one that moves something deep inside. Hold it. Look at her eyes. What do you see? Innocence, curiosity, fear, longing. Take your time. Let the feelings rise. Ask yourself, what did she dream about? What made her laugh? What made her cry? Then write her a letter, not as the adult who knows better, but as someone who finally sees her. Tell her, you are loved. I'm proud of you. This isn't just a writing exercise. It's sacred. It rebuilds the bridge between who you are now and who you once were. Next, listen to her needs. Most of our pain comes from needs that were never met. Love that wasn't given, safety that wasn't felt, understanding that never came. These needs don't disappear with time, they linger, quietly shaping your relationships and your choices. Find a quiet space. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Then invite your inner child to come forward. Picture her clearly. What she's wearing, how she feels, what she's doing. When she appears, ask gently, what do you need from me right now? Then just listen. Don't rush or question what comes. You might feel tears before you hear words. Whatever arises, write it down. This isn't about fixing her. It's about hearing her for the first time. Each time you do this, you soften a little more. You start rebuilding the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. And slowly, you begin to rediscover the innocence, wisdom, and light that were never truly lost, only buried under years of trying to be who others wanted you to be. And finally, become the mother you always needed. If you didn't grow up with the love or safety you longed for, that emptiness doesn't just fade. It waits for your own love to fill it. Listen to the way you speak to yourself when you make mistakes. Is your inner voice kind, or is it harsh? Would you speak that way to a frightened little girl? Of course not. So why speak that way to yourself? Start changing that inner voice. Imagine your younger self standing before you, small, waiting, maybe scared. Look into her eyes and tell her, you are loved. You matter. You don't have to earn rest. You're not too much. You're just right. When you begin to talk to yourself this way, something profound happens. You stop searching for love from others because you finally give it to yourself. You stop begging for validation because you finally see your own worth. This is what nurturing really means. It's not about ignoring your pain. It's about meeting it with compassion. It's about becoming the safe, loving, steady presence your younger self always needed. And when you do, you soften, you heal. You begin to feel a kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone else. Because it's the peace that comes from being fully accepted by yourself. To truly honor your feminine energy, you have to slow down and turn inward. Ask yourself, what would bring me joy right now? Not what's expected. Not what looks productive. Not what pleases others. What would actually feed your soul? Create a sacred moment in your day just for you. This is your time to come alive again. Maybe it's letting your bare feet move freely across the floor to a song that stirs something wild inside you. Maybe it's painting without any plan, letting your emotions spill onto the canvas. Or maybe it's sitting quietly with a warm cup of tea, feeling the calm power of simply being. Do something that wakes up the softness and creativity the world once told you to hide. And most importantly, let go of the need to control everything. Femininity doesn't grow in tight spaces. It blossoms in trust. Trust in your body, your intuition, your timing, and your worth. When you begin to honor that essence, something beautiful happens. You return to a version of yourself that feels more alive, more magnetic, more real than ever before. Because the truth is, you don't need to become anything.